Well, I will go ahead and get started. Hi there, Adam. This is a fairly simple agenda tonight. We don't have any site plan review or any sort of the conventional review and action items, but we do have a very important item, which is the public hearing for our 2020 master plan update. Now that we've gone through the 63-day review period, where our neighboring municipalities, utility and service providers have a chance to look at the master plan. So I will give a little bit more extensive of a introduction to that topic shortly. But there's a public hearing and a recommendation related to that. And I was going to have the typical screen up that shows the format for tonight, but I think I'll just skip past that and just reiterate that this meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube. It is a public meeting that is being conducted virtually for the purposes of providing protection given the public health situation with the COVID crisis, in compliance with direction from the state of Michigan. And we are going to proceed with our public hearing tonight as noticed remotely, and the action on the master plan as noticed remotely, as those notices have been in circulation that way. And so with no further ado, I will turn this over to the chair, Carol Thompson. And within a few minutes, we might be hearing from Commissioner Boynton as well. So there we go. Carol, you can take it from there. Thanks.
Thanks, Director Powers. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for the Charter Township of Van Buren. Today is Wednesday, October 28th of 2020. We'll start with a roll call, please. Ms. Harmon.
Jeff Jar.
Here.
Donald Boynton. Brian Kelly.
Here.
Medina Atchison is excused. Sherry Budd.
Here.
Joan Franzoy is excused. Carol Thompson.
Here. Thank you very much. We have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Commissioner Jar, support Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion on the motion? Any changes or additions? Hearing none, is there a roll call vote to approve, please?
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. So our agenda is approved. We also have minutes from the meeting of October 14th of 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Support.
Commissioner Kelly, support Commissioner Jar. Any changes or corrections to the minutes? A roll call vote, please.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. Thank you. So our minutes are approved. We'll move right into the first item on tonight's agenda, which, as Director Powers told us, is the public hearing. The public hearing is for the Van Buren Township 2020 Master Plan Update. The Charter Township of Van Buren has completed a draft update to its master plan, consistent with the provisions of the Michigan Public Act 33 of 2008, as amended, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. The Charter Township of Van Buren will host a public hearing and hear comments regarding the draft of the full update to its master plan. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Budd, support.
Support.
Commissioner Jar. And roll call vote, please.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes, thank you. So the public hearing is now open, and we will be happy to receive comments from the public on this agenda item. If you would make sure that the moderator recognizes you through the variety of raise your hand or notifications to the Zoom meeting. And if you would identify yourself with your name and address, and then tell us what your comments are. And anyone from the audience, please.
Thank you for that, Chair. And just through the chair, I might take this opportunity to say something that I normally say at the beginning, which is that you can, as the chair alluded to, you can participate by several means. You can use the Q&A or chat function. You can raise your virtual hand at the bottom of the screen, or if you're dialing in by phone, you can dial *9. I do see some attendees from staff and Rosemary, and I see a couple of other attendees. So if anybody has anything they'd like to say about the master plan, please feel free to let us know you'd like to talk. Your raised hand from Matthew Nitz, so we can bring him in as a speaker here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to start out and say thanks for all your work. I think a lot of the plan is definitely moving in a good direction. I like a lot of the ideas that are being put forward. One of the main questions I was wondering if you could clarify. One of the main goals, it seemed like, was to kind of get a good community that had opportunities for people to mix and have businesses where people could come to, and public areas that they could go to. I still saw a lot of areas that seemed like they were zoned very largely as single residence housing, and not as much. There were a couple small areas that had some local commercial areas and parks around them, but not necessarily mixed in among a lot of that residential area. Is there any plan to open some of that up for maybe some small businesses or parks around those areas?
That's a good question. Thank you. I will ask either Director Powers or possibly our planner if they would talk about how that mixed use zoning might work and other possibilities for public areas as well as commercial business.
So I might give a first try at that. So thank you for the question, and I think it's a good topic that was thought about by the Planning Commission and the Township Board and by the community over this process. This is still a community that's going to have a significant amount of land planned for conventional detached single-family residential or low-density residential housing. But you will notice that there's a significant amount of mixed use in the form of what's called either town center edge, town center core, or mixed use planned areas. Those areas will take on different forms depending on what part of the township you're looking at. And they're going to be sort of fleshed out in more detail based on some sub-area plan updates that are made in those areas. So whether it's along the Belleville and Tyler Road corridors, kind of in that stretch immediately adjacent to along Belleville Road from the service drive up to the up to Ecorse Road, and then stringing along part of Tyler Road. And then you have some mixed use also planned that's probably going to take a different form south of downtown Belleville in the portion that's in the township. So the master plan calls for more effort to kind of flesh out what those areas will look like and how the housing will grow into those areas. But there certainly is significant expansion to where you'd see an ability for there to be a mix of housing and businesses. Maybe Adam, if you have anything else you'd like to add to that, feel free.
Thank you, Dan. Excuse me. I think you gave a pretty good rundown on that. And we're referencing the future land use section of the draft, which you can find on pages 51 to 64. And so when you look at the future land use table, you can find on page 65 of that draft. Okay, we break down the categories for each particular land use by percentage of total acre. And so, you know, what you see there is that the single family districts, you know, do total 30% of the township in a sort of hypothetical build out scenario. But what you'll also see is that the mixed use categories actually total 9%. And we're looking at things like Dan mentioned, town center core, town center edge, districts which haven't been explicitly defined in this master plan because we're looking at a sort of large scale township wide strategy. Thank you, Dan, that's the table. In addition to some of the other mixed use districts, such as office research, office light industrial, things that do allow for, a little bit more creative mixing of business types and uses than what you may see today in a lot of those areas. So I would say 9% is a fairly, I think, good, and like Dan said, it's been discussed and with the community and with the Planning Commission, and I think it's been well thought out.
Thanks, Mr. Cook. So I want to check back with our resident and see if that gives you some insight into how your considerations and your concerns were addressed in the plan. There are areas that have details yet to be determined, but we have put aside areas where there can be some of the growth and development that you were talking about. Do you have other questions or comments?
Yeah, I think that clarified it pretty well. Just to check, so there isn't really any plan to, with the single family residence or any of the areas around there that might still be vacant, to make kind of a small local business area. It's more the mixed use areas that you plan to really make the mixed housing and commercial areas then.
Right.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much for your question. Other comments or questions from people attending the meeting? Anyone?
I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay. Well, we certainly don't want to cut off the comment period, but we are going to continue the discussion on this agenda item. So last call, if there's no one else, then is there a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Madam Chair, I move to close the public hearing.
Thanks. Commissioner Kelly, support?
Support.
Commissioner Jar, and a roll call vote, please.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes, thank you. So that closes the public hearing portion of the meeting, but under new business, our item for discussion tonight is the recommendation of the Van Buren Township 2020 Master Plan update. And as we just had the public hearing, which is consistent with the provisions for Michigan Public Act 33 of 2008 as amended, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, we're now following that public hearing to hear comments regarding the draft of the full update to the master plan. The Planning Commission will consider a recommendation to the Township Board of Trustees to adopt the master plan. I think we have some more presentation from both staff and our consultant before we have more discussion, please. Are you leading us off, Director Powers?
I can certainly do that. So the meeting that we had in early July, on July 6th, was a pretty thorough overview of the plan. We did not have any changes to the plan since it was released for distribution by the Township Board following that Planning Commission meeting. So by and large, most of what you needed to know was recapped at that meeting, but I have asked our master plan consultant, Adam Cook, if he wanted to just give a quick overview, and then we can use a bit of time to go over next steps and procedural items and walk through some resources related to the master plan. So perhaps a broad overview of where we are, and sort of a summary from the consultant at this point.
Certainly. Thank you, Dan. And in the interest of everyone's time, I don't want to necessarily rehash everything that we covered several months ago, although I'm obviously open to answering any questions that you might have. What I will do is go ahead and share my screen, if that's possible, just to have a handful of slides that I want to put up here this evening. Is that visible to everybody?
Mm,
Wonderful. And my PowerPoint crashed.
Mr. Cook, I'm going to let you work on your technical side of things, and I'm just going to take a moment to say that I did have a chance to review the full draft document, and it is an impressive document, and I think a great deal of thanks goes out to the community for so much participation that makes such a difference in how we do our work, to the staff and the planners who shepherded us through this process, and then took so many comments and so many wish lists and a variety of existing documents and folded it into one major document. So great kudos to you as well. I also want to say that I found it incredibly attractive and informative, and I liked the ability to click through, go back and forth, and almost seamlessly find my way around the plan. Didn't necessarily go through the plan from page 1 through page 40, whatever, from beginning to end, but really enjoyed the chance to jump around and see how our thought processes came together to present, I think, a quite workable plan. And I'm excited to hear where you think we're at with it and how we're going to move forward. So how's the screen sharing going, Mr. Cook?
My PowerPoint is reloading, and I think we should be off and running here.
Okay.
Yes, I think we're going to do it, and I'm not going to try to go full screen. I think that's probably what did it. So let's try it now. Okay, does that work for everybody?
mm-hmm.
Okay,
we can see your cover sheet. Yes.
Okay. And we'll be going through all the fonts that I don't have here. Oh. And one more, and I think we're good to go. Okay, so pardon that interruption. Want to do a quick walkthrough of the process. I think Dan explained this pretty well, but this actually puts it into a visual format. And again, I do appreciate the positive feedback we've received on this. This couldn't have happened without the full support of the Planning Commission, as well as a number of active and engaged stakeholders throughout the community. Of course, we ran into some unforeseen challenges like everybody else did early in the year. And I think that, everyone on the commission can pat themselves on the back for having made it through to this process. And so we are at really the penultimate step in the master plan process. As you can see, going back to 2019, and really there was a round of surveys that went out in 2018. We updated those in 2019. About a year ago this month, we did a series of workshops for public engagement. The plan was drafted and revised several times with your input from late 2019 into June of this year. Between July 8th and July 21st, we had the recommendation for the Township Board to send it out for review. That review process commenced in late July, and we are today here at the public hearing. So the final step is then to make any final revisions to the draft based on any comments that we've received tonight or any comments that the commission may have. We'll create a resolution of adoptions that's language for the Township Board to take up at their subsequent meeting. If there are any other final revisions that, due to time constraints, don't make it into a compiled adoption copy of the draft, we can enumerate those in the resolution language and ensure that those revisions ultimately do get compiled. And what comes out of that is the adoption copy. That is the final approved copy of your 2020 master plan that will go forward and start guiding the future of Van Buren Township. And so what are the next steps really beyond that? I know Dan wanted to have a little bit of dialogue about that in terms of, moving forward. I think one of the things we talked about a lot during this process is, we want this to be a usable plan. We had a document that had, dozens and dozens of goal and objective statements. We worked very hard to kind of pare those down and still, capture content, but make it so that, people, stakeholders, elected officials, appointed officials that are using this document can really keep the big picture items in it front of mind and make easy reference to it and really use it on a day-to-day basis. This is not just a document to, check boxes and put on a shelf, but really we want this to be a document that inspires people and, gets people looking at it on a regular basis. So what are some ways to do that? I mean, of course, we've got the traditional ways of conveying the information in here, the interactive, or I should say the PDF version of it that you're familiar with, as well as through traditional print copies. What are some other options that might be considered down the road? We have been successful in other communities hosting sort of an interactive online version of a PDF, which I have an example of for City of Mount Pleasant, which is coming very close to adoption at this point. Dan did some incredible work over the last few months creating interactive online mapping exhibits to go along with the static exhibits in the draft plan that are on the township's website. And I think those have a strong role going forward. And then lastly, actually marketing the document and making sure that it's, getting in front of people. Well, first and foremost, people making sure, they know it's there as a first step, as a resource. And then how is that integrated into future efforts that the township wants to take on when it comes to revising some of these sub-area plans or revising the zoning ordinance as need be to create some of these mixed-use districts or anything else that the township wants to take on. Rather than just assuming that everybody knows the master plan is there, I think it's something that really should be, actively marketed so that it's front of mind and is a go-to resource. And Dan, I don't know if you have any comments you'd like to make on that front.
Thanks. Thanks for that overview, Adam. That is that kind of hits all the bases of what I was going to talk about. So we are at that step where the Planning Commission will consider recommendation to the Township Board after we have gone through the 2 months. This has actually been out there since August, so we've gone through a significant time of review, and we're now ready for adoption. And I think to Adam's last slide here, maybe not tonight, but maybe whenever you feel comfortable, just let me know how you feel you'd like to be able to interact with this plan, because it should not just be something that sits on the shelf. It will be guiding staff's recommendations on rezonings and master plan amendments in the future. And it'll be guiding other things like capital improvements projects. But we also want you to be able to be engaged with it throughout all those processes. So if you've had a chance, you may know about the idea of this interactive mapping by clicking on the link that's on our pop-up page on our front web page. Take a look at that and see if you'd like anything on that expanded, or if there's any other tools you can think of that would help you to understand the plan better and be able to access it more easily. The next step from here is going to be that following this recommendation by the Planning Commission, there will be an adoption by the Township Board. And at that point, this will be an active plan. Our future land use map and all aspects of this plan will be updated for the next 20 years, but to be revisited every 5 years. And I think that's all that there really is to say at this point. If the Planning Commission would like to revisit any aspect of the plan or the master plan website, please let us know and we can pull that up.
Great. Thank you both, gentlemen. I'll ask for questions or comments from the commission. Your response to the presentation, to how it looks on the website. Anything you see that we've missed or want to look at again?
Through the chair, I just think I thought it looked good. I think I've looked at it a lot of times. So sometimes I think it got not uninteresting, but you always wanted to make sure you weren't overlooking something that you should have seen it. And I'd like to thank all the ones that worked on the committee for it, because I think they did a good job. Adam and Dan, I mean, I think everybody put forth a real gallant effort. Thank you.
Good, yes. Yes, a hero's job to do the subcommittee work on a master plan, for
Yeah.
sure. Any other commissioners? Anyone in the audience? I'll double check with Director Powers. Anyone in the audience indicating they want to say anything?
No, I see no other hands raised, but Mr. Nitz or anybody else out there would like to know more about the plan as this moves toward adoption by the Township Board, please feel free to reach out to me. If you go to our website, we'll leave the master plan interactive site link up there, and it's got my email on one of the first slides. So please feel free to reach out to me with other questions or suggestions.
Great. Do we have any comments from our neighbors who had the chance to review over the last couple months?
That is a negative. We don't.
Okay. They must really like it. All right. If there's nothing else to discuss on this agenda item, then the question to us is a recommendation to the Township Board to move towards adoption. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Kelly.
I move to recommend to the Township Board to adopt the master plan.
Great. Support?
Or
Commissioner Dark. We have a motion and support. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. So we have that recommendation and the culmination of a long investment of time and effort and really quality work. Thanks again to everyone. And we'll send that forward to the Township Board. We have an idea, Director Powers, of when that might go on a board agenda.
Well, we do have a little bit of time. There's not going to be a board meeting due to the election until I believe the 17th of November. So it'll be either on that date or the December 1st date.
Great, thank you.
Before the
very
end of the year.
We are to general discussion on tonight's agenda. I'll ask again, Director Powers, anything that you have for general discussion?
Just on a very related topic, the Township of Canton is updating beginning the process of a shorter 42-day review for an amendment to their master plan. They're amending a portion of their township. So here's the site near sort of kitty corner from our jurisdiction, up there at Michigan Avenue and just east of Denton Road. So I will immediately after this meeting forward this notice to the Planning Commission, just so you have this available to you, and you can contact Canton Township if you have any questions or comments about their updates.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone on the commission, general discussion item? Anyone in the audience? Anything for general discussion? Looks like we're good. In that case, ladies and gentlemen, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move to adjourn.
Commissioner Budd, support.
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Dark, support.
Thought
All in
Brian might
favor?
jump in there.
Good, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And thank you, everyone. We're adjourned and excellent effort. Let's move it forward. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Aye.
Good night.